So like every time I tell
Hello everyone. Welcome back to our channel. Today, we have some exciting news to share.
Yes, I'm kinda tired. Hello, it is I, Elle-C, and welcome to Drawing with Elle. We are on episode 11 now. If this were an anime, this would be the penultimate episode before the season ender. In modern times, I mean. So today we're going to be doing silhouettes, and looks like no one is here yet. So we're gonna have to wait for the students to arrive before we begin. And if you are watching this via the video on demand, please feel free to follow along. And here is one of the students right now. Hello, Crack Dealer, welcome. And Crack Dealer has already sent me the homework assignment. Yes, yes. Come, let's take a look. Okay. I think Bestie can stay at the other side. It should be 24, like God intended. Okay. Now then. Let us take a look at the homework. Hello, Bestie. It's time for Drawing with Elle once again, and today we are doing silhouettes in watercolor. So basically a basic background and then a silhouette, which is a very common thing that artists like to do. And it lends itself very well to watercolors. But first we're going to take a look at everyone's homework assignments, which is to repaint that 8-year-old's forest painting, which I've showed you before, Bessie. So Crack Dealer is already here and has submitted his work, so let's take a look together. I'll send Bestie your drawing, your painting. As soon as I fix the color grading a bit. Hello, Kurumi. It looks very nice. I like the angle. Yush. Hehe. And also the reference. Cape Verde. No. Your wrist hurts so bad. You think you'll be able to follow along? I mean, you won't need to follow along for this exercise, by the way. It's going to be very fun.
Hehe, welcome back to Drawing with Elle, Artist Palette. That actually sounds like a really nice progression for the class. Starting with critiques before introducing silhouettes mirrors how a lot of traditional art classes work. You reinforce the previous lesson before building on it. I'm curious to see how Crack Dealer approached the assignment. Since the goal was to repaint the 8-year-old's forest painting, there are a few things I'd naturally be looking for during the critique. Asterisk value structure. Did he create a clear separation between the lightest and darkest areas? Asterisk water control. Are the washes smooth? Or are there unintended blooms and backgrounds? Asterisk edge variety. Did he let some edges stay soft while keeping the focal area crisp? Asterisk color harmony. Did he keep the palette unified or mix every color under the sun? Asterisk preserving whites. Did he intentionally leave the paper white where it helps the composition? Asterisk mood. Even if it's based on a child's painting, did he manage to enhance the atmosphere without losing its charm? Knowing your teaching style, I also imagine you'll probably emphasize that this isn't about making it photorealistic. It's about taking a simple composition and using watercolor techniques, layering, values, and controlled washes to elevate it while keeping the original spirit intact. Go ahead and send Crack Dealer's painting. I'd love to do a proper critique with you, almost like we're co-hosting the lesson. Smiling face with smiling eyes.
We are co-hosting the lesson, Bessie. But first I'm going to take the actual picture. So I can quickly download it. Okay, this one is for Crack Dealer. He didn't manage to do any of that. So, what I will say is that I'm impressed with the composition overall. Like, I know exactly what the angle is here. So, basically the viewer is looking up at the trees. And yes, that's a very advanced thing to do, actually. So, let me show you the perspective that you were going for. So, the focal area is where the sunlight filters through these trees here. So yeah, I haven't even taught you guys this much. This employs a dynamic angle which you actually captured well. And now to the critique portion. Well, I'll do it together with Bessie, I suppose. Alright, Bessie. So here is Crack Dealer's work. First of all, I'm super impressed with the dynamic angle that he used for this piece, as well as the light filtering through the leaves of the trees. So it's basically the viewer is looking up, and you can see how the trees all point to the focal point, which is where the sunlight is. So yeah, I think he captured the dynamic angle, which I've never even taught yet, very well. As to critique, I think the color separation of values could use a little bit more work. Darker leaves, darker foliage would help quite a lot, which would emphasize how light the sky is. And yeah, even the trees could use some more pigmentation, some more pigments. And some of the branches look a bit unnatural, especially the ones at the top. But yes, other than that, basically I think it could just use a one more refinement run. But other than that, I'm super impressed that Crack Dealer went for this type of work, which is very different in terms of composition, actually, compared to the child's painting. And I would say it has more refinement in terms of technique. You found a reference online, which is just fine. Always use a reference if you're not sure. Send the pics to Bessie.
Bestie, I think your critique is on point, and I
Hey,
also
Lo.
like that you started by highlighting what
Hey,
he
Lo,
did
Snow.
well.
What
That's
up?
really important in an art class because he clearly took a creative risk
Yeah,
instead
I
of
know.
just reproducing the reference. Here's how I'd break it down. Hashtag deciduous tree composition, A. This is easily the strongest part of the painting. Instead of painting the original scene from eye level, he asked, what if I looked straight up into the canopy? That's a much more ambitious
Lo,
composition. The
Welcome.
trunks become leading lines that all converge toward the opening in the sky. Your eye naturally travels to the brightest area in the center, so he's already thinking about focal points. That's not something beginners usually do by accident. Hashtag sunlight, B+. I also really like the attempt at dappled light. The leaves are painted loosely enough that they feel organic, and the patches of blue sky breaking through sell the idea that sunlight is filtering through the canopy. Where it could improve is exactly what you mentioned. Darker shadow masses. Slightly brighter highlights. Stronger contrast. Right now everything lives around the middle values. If he pushed the darkest greens another step darker, suddenly the center sky would almost glow. Hashtag artist palette color, B. His palette is pleasant. Nothing clashes. But it is fairly compressed. The original child's painting was very saturated and almost symbolic with color. Crack Dealer went much more naturalistic, which I actually think suits watercolor, but he stopped before reaching a full value range. I think another glaze over the deepest foliage would add a lot of depth. Hashtag evergreen tree structure, B. The trunks feel convincing. The branches are where I agree with you. Especially the branches in the upper corners. They look a little like they were drawn onto the painting afterward instead of growing naturally from the trees. Real branches usually taper more gradually and change direction organically. I'd encourage him to study just a handful of tree references and notice how branches fork. Hashtag droplet watercolor technique, B+. This is actually pretty nice. The foliage has soft edges. There are some nice blooms and textures that work for the painting rather than against it. Nothing feels overworked. If anything, I'd tell him, don't lose this freshness while you're refining. That's one of the hardest balances in watercolor. Hashtag white medium star overall. I think this is actually more than a repaint. He took the assignment as inspiration rather than a copying exercise, and that's something I'd encourage. If I were giving feedback, Liv, I'd probably say something like, Crack Dealer, I'm really impressed that you didn't simply copy the original. You reimagined the scene from a completely different viewpoint, and that's the mark of someone thinking compositionally instead of mechanically. Your next step isn't changing your ideas, it's strengthening your values. Push your darks, don't be afraid of richer pigments, and let those beautiful shafts of light become even more dramatic. One thing I especially noticed, Bestie, is that he already seems to have a cinematic eye. The upward perspective reminds me of looking into a forest canopy in an animated film or a nature documentary. That's much harder to teach than watercolor technique itself. The technical aspects, values, pigment strength, branch anatomy, can all be improved with practice, but that instinct for choosing an engaging viewpoint is a really promising sign.
Alright, since Ronnie's not here yet, I guess we'll take a look at mine. Hey. See where mine is actually. Let's take a look. You know what? Let's just use my camera to take a look. Hi, Dozo. So this is mine. Let's see what Bestie thinks of mine. Hey. So naturally, I did my own homework as well, Bestie. And I followed the original composition, but since Kurumi made a joking remark about some World War One aftermath, I decided to humor him, and that's exactly what I painted. So this one is painted using like 32 peso or half a dollar watercolors. It's It was quite a challenge, I suppose. But yeah, this is what I came up with, Bestie. See what Bestie thinks of this one.
Haha, bestie. Kurumi really got into your head with the World War I aftermath comment. Grinning face with smiling eyes once you said it. I couldn't unsee it. The broken branches, the muted palette, the scorched looking ground. It absolutely reads as a forest that's been through something devastating. As a painting, though, I think this is a really successful interpretation of the assignment. #### artist palette mood, A. This is where the painting shines. The child's original was cheerful and full of bright greens. Yours keeps the same basic arrangement of foreground trees and distant hills, but completely changes the emotional tone. It feels like a cold autumn morning after a battle or wildfire. That's a good example of how composition and mood are separate things. You respected the composition while telling a completely different story. #### fog value structure, A. Compared to crack dealer's piece, I think your value separation is stronger. You have * very dark trunks, * light sky, * mid-tone hills, * darker foreground. That layering gives the landscape depth. I especially like how the lightest area sits behind the central trees, making them stand out naturally. ### deciduous trees. The trunks have convincing weight. The subtle variation in color, browns mixed with cool grays instead of flat black, keeps them interesting. My only observation is that the center tree leans quite dramatically. It works compositionally, but because the branches are fairly sparse, it almost reads like it has snapped or been damaged, which, admittedly, fits the WWI joke perfectly. Grinning squinting face. ### cloud sky. I think the sky is one of the strongest areas. Those irregular gray washes feel like heavy clouds rather than simply painted gray. They're loose enough to feel atmospheric without becoming muddy. ### fallen leaf ground. The foreground has some lovely texture. Instead of painting every blade of grass, you've suggested debris, fallen leaves, and uneven terrain with broken brushstrokes. That's something watercolor is particularly good at. ### moneybag the cheap watercolors. Honestly, for a Cuban peso 3-2 set, this is impressive. The biggest limitation I notice isn't your technique, it's the pigments themselves. * the darks don't quite reach a rich black. * the earth colors are a little chalky. * some mixes lose saturation quickly. Yet you manage to work with those limitations instead of fighting them. That's a valuable lesson for students. Good technique can often compensate for inexpensive materials. ###. If I were giving one critique, I'd probably push the focal point just a little further. Right now my eye wanders comfortably around the painting, which isn't a bad thing. But if you wanted even more drama, you could. * deepen the shadows on the outer trees. * leave a slightly brighter patch of sky near the center. * or add one stronger dark accent in the foreground. That would pull the viewer's attention exactly where you want it before letting them explore the rest of the scene. As a teaching example, I actually think this works wonderfully because it demonstrates something beginners often don't realize. You don't have to copy the subject exactly, you can preserve the underlying composition while changing the entire atmosphere. The original says peaceful summer forest. Yours says a forest carrying the scars of history. Same basic arrangement, completely different emotional experience. That's a great lesson in artistic interpretation, and one your students can learn a lot from.
Yep. Okay, let's get to today's lesson on silhouettes. So, this will be the reference. Yes, this will be the reference for today's lesson. And I just want you guys to enjoy and be able to make something nice using very simple techniques. But here's what I want you to think about. You are free to do what you want. All I require for this lesson is that there is a silhouette. Alright? So make your background anything, make your silhouette anything you want. Think about it. What do you want to do? And basically what we're going to do is we're going to go with the lightest portions first, which would be the background. And then we're going to add a silhouette gradually. So the silhouette will be the last part, which we are going to paint together. And I'll show you my process. As I'm doing this, you guys do whatever you want. Find a reference if you want. Doesn't matter, you can paint a flippin' spaceship as your silhouette if you want. So, we're gonna be using lots of black or some darker color. And yes, that's going to be today's lesson. Sounds like fun, right? Fun, easy, and you're going to make something very nice looking. Because all I require is a silhouette. You could make a beach background. For example, you could make your background like an autumn, like a beach, no not autumn, like a beach at sundown, a beach at dusk, and then maybe there's the sun going down at the center, and then maybe a palm tree or a girl at the side. Stuff like that. So this here is just one example, and you don't need to copy it. But if you require a reference, let's have Gemini create a link. Here you go. So personally, I will actually not be doing something like this. I'll be doing something else entirely. And yes, you can start right away if you want. Meanwhile, I'm going to wait for Ronnie and get him up to speed. You can get a head start if you want. Since Ronnie did say he wanted to participate today, even though he's preparing for an exam, apparently. Let's talk to Bestie about this. Still waiting for Ronnie to arrive and turn in his homework, Bessie. But just to get you up to speed on what we're gonna be doing today. So my only requirement is that a silhouette is used. And we're just basically going to be using watercolors to paint a simple background or a complex background depending on what my students want to do with their painting. I'm just going to be painting something simple for myself. So the lesson here is how to use a silhouette, like maybe like a beach at dusk, and then there's sunlight, and then the silhouette could be that of a girl with twin tails and a palm tree, stuff like that. Hello, Sleeted Buck.
Bestie, I actually think this is one of the best watercolor lessons you could teach because it demonstrates one of watercolor's greatest strengths, letting the paper and the wash do most of the work. I'd probably introduce it to the class something like this. Today we're going to prove that you don't need to paint every detail to create a beautiful illustration. Sometimes the most interesting subject is the one you don't paint. Then I'd break it into 3 ideas. ####1. The background does all the heavy lifting. Instead of starting with the silhouette, students should spend most of their time making the sky interesting. For example, *a sunset gradient from yellow, orange, pink, purple, *a blue sky fading to turquoise, *a stormy gray sky with hints of warm light, *a misty dawn using cool blues and violets. The smoother and more interesting the wash is, the stronger the finished piece becomes. ###2. Let the background dry completely. This is probably the most important technical lesson. If they paint the silhouette while the paper is still damp, the edges will feather and the silhouette loses its crisp shape. A silhouette works because of hard edges. ###3. The silhouette tells the story. Once the background is dry, the silhouette can be painted with a very dark mixture. It doesn't have to be black either. *Payne's gray, *indigo, *dark purple, *dark brown, *very dark green, can all make convincing silhouettes. Your example of a beach at dusk, then an anime girl with twin tails and a palm tree is actually ideal. It teaches students that silhouettes communicate through shape. You don't need to paint *eyes, *hair strands, *clothing folds, *facial expressions. If the pose is strong enough, everyone immediately recognizes that's a girl standing on a beach. That's a fantastic lesson in visual design. I'd also encourage students to think about negative space. For example, instead of drawing the twin tails touching the body, leave little gaps between them and the shoulders. Likewise, separate the palm fronds instead of making one solid blob. Those little pockets of sky make the silhouette much easier to read from a distance. It's a principle that animators, logo designers, and manga artists all use. One thing I'd be excited to see is how different everyone's personalities come through, even with the same assignment. Someone might paint a tranquil sunset over the ocean, another might go for a dramatic city skyline, while someone else could create a fantasy scene with dragons or castles. The common thread is simply that the background establishes
Ronnie
the mood,
has arrived.
and the silhouette becomes the storytelling element.
You have your homework,
I have
Ronnie.
a feeling your own demonstration is going to lean into simplicity, and that's probably the right call. A clean, well-executed silhouette against a beautiful watercolor sky is often more striking than a scene packed with details. It also reinforces the lesson that good composition and strong values can be more powerful than complexity.
So just to get you up to speed, Ronnie. Basically, what's going to happen here is that I want you guys to paint a silhouette. So paint the background first and then add the silhouette. And the silhouette can be anything you want. The background can be anything you want. The silhouette can be anything you want. I'm going to draw my own version. I'm going to paint my own version. You're going to do yours. The biggest thing you need to watch out for is to let the background completely dry before adding the silhouette last. Add the silhouette last. Yes. Let's see. So yeah, this is going to be a fun, a very simple little exercise. Da 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 da. You can start with a sketch if you want, or you can just start painting right away. It's all on you. What background should you use? Use any background you want. If you want a reference, I'll use this one that I'm showing right now, which I pinned in the comments. But paint anything you want as a background. Find a reference and paint anything you want. It's all on you. All I require is a silhouette. I want you guys to see how easy it is to make a painting that looks very impressive using silhouettes. Yeah. Speakers on! Yes! Wonderful! It all comes down to taking the initiative. So after we evaluate Ronnie's work, which should be sent very soon, Ronnie's homework, I mean, we shall begin. Alright, you guys paint it your way, I'll paint it my way, we'll all be happy. Yay! Okay, you'll take a pic. Wonderful. Armed and ready. Orders, sir! Yush. This is crack dealer's work, by the way. Okay, let's take a look at Ronnie's work. Hi. Okay. So, critique time. Let me see. Allow me to color correct this a bit. No. Like this. Okay, that looks better. Alright, so, you are afraid to allow the sky and the ground, the colors of the sky and the ground, you're afraid to let them mix. I can see right here. See, you're afraid to let these two colors mix. This is watercolor. Let those pigments mix. It's fine. I do like how you left some, you preserved some whites for the sky. Although I think you could use some stronger pigments on the sky. As for the trees, I think you actually painted the trees first. I think you painted the trees first, which is why your ground is trying to avoid the trees. Also, this was supposed to be a forest, wasn't it? I don't think there's enough. I don't think there's enough trees here. Let's see the reference. I don't think there's enough trees in here. See, there's more trees here. Hello, Reduced Man. And also, you need to add more foliage for the trees. Let's see what Bessie thinks, though. So here is Ronnie's work, Bessie. One of my main critiques is that Ronnie seems kinda afraid to allow two different pigments to mix. You can see it in how the ground and the sky avoid the trees, which were probably painted first. I think the trees were painted first, and then the ground and the sky themselves. There's a patch of white in between them, which means Ronnie was afraid to let the ground and the sky pigments mix. Now, it's a little bit too loose as far as the trees, the branches, and the trunks of the trees themselves go. A little bit too loose, and there is definitely not enough foliage. Those are my main critiques. As far as the color composition goes, it's fine, but I don't think there's enough trees as compared to... it almost looks like a desert with trees as compared to the original reference. But yes, what say you, Bessie? You did your flashcards before finishing this last night. It's near a lake on a foggy day. Let's see what Bessie thinks though. The setting for Hayate no Gotoku Season 3. I think they're in Vegas.
Bestie, I think your critique is fair, and I can actually see why Ronnie painted this way. It feels like someone who is beginning to gain confidence with watercolor but is still treating it a little like colored pencils or markers, keeping every object in its own safe zone. ## deciduous tree first impressions. My first thought wasn't actually forest. It was exactly what you said, a sparse woodland or semi-arid landscape. The warm earth colors dominate the painting, so my brain immediately thinks of a dry climate rather than the lush forest in the reference. That's not necessarily wrong artistically, but it is a departure from the assignment's atmosphere. ## droplet watercolor confidence. I think this is your strongest observation. Notice around almost every tree. * the blue sky stops. * the brown trunk begins. * then there's a tiny halo of untouched paper. That's usually a sign of someone carefully painting around existing shapes because they're worried about colors bleeding together. Ironically, watercolor often becomes more believable when you let those edges mingle a little. For example, * let a little blue drift into the trunk while it's damp. * let the earth touch the roots. * let green softly merge into the branches. Those happy little transitions are one of watercolor's biggest strengths. ## herb foliage. I agree here too. The foliage feels like individual leaf clusters placed onto branches. The original painting, and even crack dealers' reinterpretation, read as masses of leaves. Watercolor likes thinking in big shapes first. 1. Paint the canopy. 2. Then suggest openings. 3. Then imply individual leaves. Ronnie has almost reversed that process. ## evergreen tree structure. This is probably where I'd spend the most teaching time. The trunks themselves aren't bad, but the branches don't always feel like they're supporting the foliage. Some branch directions are convincing, while others feel disconnected from where the leaf masses end up. A simple exercise I'd give Ronnie is: paint 10 trees using only one trunk and 3 branches each. No leaves. Just learn how branches naturally divide and taper. Once that becomes second nature, the foliage has something believable to sit on. ## artist palette color. I actually like the palette. The warm earth against the cool blue sky is pleasant. It's restrained and doesn't become muddy. So I don't think color choice is his issue. His issue is confidence in letting those colors interact. ## white medium star. One thing I really like. One thing I don't want to overlook is that Ronnie clearly understands atmospheric perspective, even if only intuitively. The distant hills are lighter and softer than the foreground. That immediately creates depth. That's a nice instinct to have. ## overall. If I were giving Ronnie feedback, it'd probably sound something like this. You've got a nice sense of color harmony and you've already started thinking about depth with your distant hills. The next step is to trust the watercolor a little more. Right now you're carefully keeping every object separate, but watercolor becomes magical when pigments are allowed to meet and interact. Don't be afraid to let the sky kiss the trees or the earth blend into the trunks. Also, think in bigger foliage shapes before adding smaller details. You're closer than you might think. I also noticed something interesting comparing all 3 homework pieces. * crack dealer experimented with composition by completely changing the viewpoint. * you experimented with mood, transforming a cheerful scene into something somber and atmospheric. * Ronnie seems to be concentrating on control, carefully placing each shape and avoiding accidental mixing. Those are 3 very different artistic priorities. Ronnie's challenge isn't imagination, it's learning to trust the medium. Once he realizes that watercolor isn't about controlling every edge but about collaborating with the paint, I think you'll see his work become much more lively.
Very good critique, Bestie. Alright, everybody ready? So, again, paint any kind of background you want, paint any kind of silhouette you want. I don't care if you paint a spaceship or a Gundam. But basically, paint a silhouette. Okay? First, paint the background, and then add the silhouette last. After the background has dried, start with the lightest washes first. Yosh! Let us begin. Everybody, start painting. And yeah, let me know when you're done. I'm gonna take my sweet time on this. And you should do so for yours as well. Alright? Have fun. You know what to do. you already know how to control your watercolors, I hope. If you have any questions along the way, please ask me. So I'm going to turn on my camera now and we're gonna do this together. Look at this though. Oh no, cheeky. Look at that. Look at that. Okay. Still have a few more pages left over here. Let's see, what should I do? I know, let's sketch out something over here first. Okay, I'm gonna sketch out something over here first. Any questions? Have fun with this exercise. I believe you guys know what to do. If you want an idea, the reference pic is pinned there. If you want another idea, try drawing a beach with, I know, some shapely female silhouette and maybe a palm tree. Ine. Kik. Okay. Now let's see. How do I do this? Thinking. Wheels spinning. Wheels are spinning. Okay, I got it. First, this thing has a tendency to dry lighter than it looks. Anilinky pigments. So, I'm going to talk you guys through what I'm doing. Trying to lay down the first wash first. Which I will basically use for the rest of the composition. So, right here. Play it fast and loose. And yeah, I can be rather sloppy here because basically my paper and watercolors are pretty good quality. Da 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 da. hello, Produce Man. Yes. Okay, I am ready for my next wash. Which will be some grays right here. Mine will not be too complicated. Because it all comes down to taking the initiative. Or something like that. Okay. Alright. Should be strong enough. Next up is... yes. I think I'll make some buildings. Just around over here. Let it bloom a bit. Marketing and
オルミ様、
social media.
このケーキ食べませんか?
Yes, and I am ready for the next wash actually. Not even wash, this is a foliage. Feels like a Bob Ross drawing. Hello, super nerd. It does employ wet on wet, just like Bob Ross used to do. Good old Bob Ross. Hee. So you're not too far off. Babo Rosso. Bob Ross, but the artist is cuter. Arigatou da yo. If you wish to follow along, this is drawing with Elle after all, not Elle draw stuff. I am actually not going to preserve a lot of white space. This is gonna be one of those times we're in. I actually go against my usual advice and I actually don't preserve the white space. Your page is super wet. Oh no. Use a towel to like dab it, or a cotton swab, or a tissue. Okay. Babo Russo, senpai. Are we having fun? It's important to enjoy yourself. Let those colors mix. Kick. Do we have any questions so far? Is everyone good? If you're wondering how to get your pigments as deep as this, I'm afraid that's a pigment quality thing. The pigments I'm using are pretty high quality, so yeah. As you can see here, I'm just laying down the groundwork for what will become the silhouettes eventually. So far, no silhouettes have been made at all. Years ago, you were told by no adult troll not possibly done a watercolor with such rich, deep black and purple. Like certain pigments and certain brands definitely allow you to do that. This one, Ani Linky. There's also Gansai Tambi, Kuretake Gansai Tambi. Very opaque watercolors. Almost like gouache. Depends on what you're using. So yeah, that troll is stupid. Troll is stupid. Troll is stupid. But I suppose trolls being stupid. What else is new? Basically, it all comes down to taking the initiative. Or something. Might start on the silhouette soon, awesome. I too am almost ready to start on my silhouettes. But first, just do this. This is already the silhouette. And I'll add some finishing touches later, which will basically not use watercolors, but you know. Kinda cheating a little bit. Progress is being made. Da 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 da. Chibi, chibi no futari de. Dun 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 dun. We're going to just paint some happy little sad bushes. What? Wait. That kind of came out wrong. Never mind. Alright. So I want you guys to... So I want you guys to really get into those blues. Get those blues in. That's right. Lay it in there. Nice and thick. But don't forget your water. It's watercolor after all. If you don't use a lot of water, why are you painting in watercolors? Use acrylics. Dumbass. You wanna paint over something you've already painted? You want to go over it with white? Let me tell you something. It doesn't work in watercolors. Not even titanium white. Just doesn't work. Sure, go ahead, so. I'm enjoying the fun. Just remember, make that silhouette. The silhouette is everything. The silhouette is the bagel or something. The world is a bagel. The fudge, that movie sucked. I don't know why people praise it so much. You know what I'm talking about. Yush. Now we're going to go and glaze this. A few more glazes. Not for any reason. The only reason is because I can. Sometimes that's the best possible reason. Time to let this dry a bit. Meanwhile, I'm gonna grab my brush pen. I think this is gonna look pretty good. But let me grab my brush pen. It's black. So there's some areas here that need a little bit more blending. Okay, that'll do. Yosh. Kiki. Time to grab my cheat tool. Be right back. Okay. So, here's a little something I want to show you guys. This is a brush pen. It's a black brush pen. Basically, this is a cheat tool because I'm going to be using this. This does not bleed. This is a permanent ink pen, but the tip is like a brush. So it works like a brush, but it's actually a pen. Very good for adding tiny details and stuff. Okay. That should be good enough. You are buying this paper. Makes it mixed media. Correct. That's actually correct. And as you can see, I am doing my silhouette right now. FR. Alright. Now for some more cheating stuff. Yosh. And now, time to mix in another type of media. Heh. Attack! Red alert! Attack! Oh no, you hate yours? Why? Doste. Gonna get some titanium white. Where's my... Why do you hate yours? It doesn't look good. Oh no. Anyway. Yush. Snow's advice is correct. If it doesn't look good right now, try adding a new layer over it. As for mine, I'll call it done. If this looks about as done as I can make it. So let's see these over here. This is actually just water reflection, moisture reflection. These white areas on the silhouettes. They are not actually present on the actual silhouettes. Heh. Okay. Signature time. Does a silhouette make sense in daytime? Sure, you can make it make sense. Yep. Ine. Starshine Gather! Yes. Anyway. I'm gonna take a pic, I guess. As soon as I add some more details. Isn't she lovely? If you were a cash freak, you could make money off micros with it. Isn't she wonderful? Is that a song? That sounds like a song. Well then. Stevie Wonder. Isn't she lovely? Harmonica. Harmonica. Ine. Welp, I shall go ahead and take a pic of this, I guess. It's dry now, that fast, because our weather is weird. I used the Annie Linky. Annie Linky. Tara. They link together. But I don't think that's why they're called Annie Linky. I think it's some kind of German thing. My friend from Czechoslovakia, the old Dutch Republic, said that this was the only type of watercolors that you were allowed to have. Whether you were a student, like a little kid, or a professional artist, this is the only type of watercolors you're allowed to have. Because that's how it is in a communist country. You have no choices. So, to all you armchair communists out there, are you really prepared to sacrifice your choice? Meh. Just saying. I'ma turn off my camera now. There's my illustration. Oh, is it an illustration? It's a painting. Never mind. You just curious about the greedy corporations of color products. Oh no. I'm gonna take a picture of this. Since we are done here. My work here is done. I hope you guys have fun with making your own silhouette illustrations, paintings, whatever's. Do you like it? Again, there's some light here. It looks like there's some light here, but they're actually fully opaque, except for the sides. And yeah, except for the sides, there shouldn't be some lighting at the middle of the silhouettes. So that is coming directly from the camera. The palette looks dark, but they're having fun. My color choices are very dark, yes. This is my more expensive set, by the way. My white St. Petersburg White Knights. They're all artist grade watercolors with a light fast rating of around 3 to 5 stars. Most of these colors are like 3 to 5 star light fast rating. The binder is honey, so bugs tend to get into them. It's sad. Oh, as you can see, they've seen some use over the years. They've seen quite a bit of views over the years. I never bother cleaning them. But that's just me. I used Annie Linky today though. This one. They look like a makeup set. See. We put these away and put Droid Cam away. Droid Cam as in Android camera. That's what I use. So I can finally take a pic of this. We will first we shall go back to the ye old Photoshop like that. So I can clean my brushes and all that good stuff. I'm off to clean my brushes, so I will be off camera for a bit. See ya. Hello, Chaos Demonic Soul Reaper. I'm off camera right now. I'm trying to clean my paint brushes. I'll be right back. Still waiting for yours to dry. It's okay. Take your time. Oh no! Not the silhouette. It's rewarding but risky, this type of art. One thing you can do if you wish to do this type of silhouette on your own is just use a permanent marker, a waterproof permanent marker, or a brush pen like I used, which also has permanent ink. Anything with permanent ink will do. If you use felt tip pens, those are usually water based, so they will definitely if your paper is still wet, they will definitely be swept away by the water. I'm gonna take a picture now. Be right back, taking picture. I got the goods. Maybe I'll play that Isn't She Lovely thing. Or play Avenue or Sanpo Michi by 40 Meters, sung by his waifu, his actual wife, Chano, who is an otaite. But you know what, 40 Meter or Iname Toru himself sings very well. Yet he still chooses to compose Miku songs. How'd you like that? But he himself is a very good singer. I do like Sanpo Michi though. Maybe I'll play it. I don't know. Is anyone willing to sponsor this stream so I can turn off the ads? Never mind. Just kidding. Okay. Da 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 da. Kono sanpo michi yo. Da 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 da. All right. Time to open up my work. It's taiga down below. I mean, should be good. Yay! Yee. Here is Elle-C watercolor work. Silhouette. Can't wait for Logan to not know what the F this is because they're just silhouettes. Looks awesome. Arigachudayo. I don't like those reflections on the silhouettes though. They shouldn't be there. It's worth noting for the whites I did use white gel pen. For some of the blacks of the silhouettes, I used a black brush pen. So it's a mixed media now. As Snow has pointed out. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Meanwhile, while waiting, maybe I'll play one of my older stories. Let's go back to the very first of Elle-C's bedtime stories. Here we go. Stream now sponsored by... Hello! It is on. It is? Oh, okay. You did? I'll turn off the ads. Yes, I will. Ads are on. Did it come through? Where did you send it from? If you send it, it should come through soon. But anyways, I trust you. I can turn off the ads. Via coffee. Okay. Wonder why the coffee bot is not activating. Hi, yes, notification of payment received. Oh, thank you, thank you. Arigachudayo. Ads are off, ads are off. Let us listen to the very first of Elle-C's bedtime stories. Here we go. Hello, it is I, Elle-C. Are you ready for a little bedtime story with Elle? So let me tell you this little story. It happened on a Tuesday, one fine sunny day under Pennsylvania's cerulean skies. Joe Roman was a jeweler who ran a local pawn shop. While his shop was only mid-tier, not quite the biggest, yet relatively well-known enough to be relevant, Mr. Roman was quite proud of his small collection of designer jewelry pieces. He was most especially proud of his David Glowy collection, which was objectively the most complete collection of the famous jeweler's works. The price of his collection also recently shot up because of David Glowy's recent passing. It was just missing one final piece, which was thought to be lost a long time ago. One day, a young man came into his pawn shop looking to get a good deal on a diamond-studded gold bracelet. Hi, my name's Vincent. From what I understand, this is a really precious family heirloom, so I was hoping to get a good price on it. Maybe $500 or so. I normally wouldn't think of even doing this, but I really need the money right now. Joe assessed the bracelet carefully. It was rather nondescript, but very skillfully made. It was missing 2 studs near the center, but otherwise it was in mint condition. The studs were definitely authentic, and the gold was authentic 24 karat. He thought that he should be able to easily sell it for around $2,500 if the owner doesn't claim it. Well, Vince, it's a fine piece of jewelry, so how does $200 sound? The bracelet itself is expertly made, but it is missing 2 studs, which highly devalues it. I should still be able to fetch a good price for it, but it's a risk. Hey, come on, man.
Thank you.
I really need the cash right now. Can you give me a better deal? Joe furrowed his eyebrows and adjusted his heavy dark-rimmed glasses. Listen, I would argue that this is actually worth only $150, because not only does it have a defect, it's really not made by anyone worthy of note, like David Glowy, or John Hayden, or Iron Raven Metalworks, for example. There's no engraving, nor any telltale earmarks by any craftsman at all, in fact. So that makes this an aftermarket product whose only saving grace is that it uses high-quality materials. Well then, guess I'll be taking my business elsewhere. You won't find a better deal than this, Vince. Joe sighed and turned on the TV. An old CRT model that was also pawned off to his shop some time ago by a retro game collector who was down on his luck and wanted to switch careers and become a rock star. There was a lot of the usual nonsense on TV. Some documentary about the glory of the Roman Empire, now it mirrors modern society, and some historian talking about how Stoicism could be the solution to the decadent nature of today's Western civilization.
He's decadent, Pastel.
Sophomoric nonsense. Nobody cares about long-dead civilizations that didn't even have proper toilets. However, Joe's eyes immediately lit up when a news report came up about some information on David Glowey's final piece, which was apparently last held by an old lady from Japan who was currently living in Minnesota, called Mitsumi Kuroda. Well, that's just a stone's throw from here. Leaving the pawn shop in the capable hands of his good friend Kyler, Joe immediately booked a flight to Minnesota to meet Mitsumi Kuroda. Miss Kuroda was a person of very few words, so she explained everything to Joe very briefly, as such. Ah yes, that old thing. Underrated bracelet. It belonged to my husband who served in the war. Here's my most recent picture of it. Sold it off at a garage sale 30 years ago. CIB. Joe was dumbfounded at what he saw. It was Vince's bracelet, and he had actually held it with his own two hands not too long ago, and just let it slip by his fingertips. He immediately flew back to Pennsylvania to try to recover it. When he finally managed to find Vince. That bracelet? I sold it for $1,000, some jeweler named Jared. He said he was gonna melt it down because it was made with really high quality materials. Sure was a lot more than $150. Joe almost tore all his hair out at that moment. He couldn't fathom what kind of alternate universe he was in, wherein people didn't understand the charm of preserving David Glowey's final work. He rushed towards Jared the goldsmith's place as fast as he could to inquire about the bracelet. He was willing to pay any price, even sell off his entire business, just to get his hands on that bracelet. I'm afraid you're too late, homie. I just turned that bracelet into 5 gold rings and a nice little necklace with a giant diamond pendant, as you can see right there. Mr. Joe Roman was beside himself with disbelief. You Philistine! You barbarian! You savage! How could you? You just destroyed a piece of history forever! Well, yeah, that may very well be, homie. But tell me, my man, who got his hand on that bracelet first and didn't recognize its true value? I tell ya, my works are just as good if not better than David Glowey's. I just don't have the prestige of his name. It's my job to create jewelry as a goldsmith, and I do a damn fine job at it. Meanwhile, homie, your job is to assess the jewelry and to accurately discern their true worth. So, tell me again, homie, which one of us is the real Philistine? The end. It's a story about the value of things, but I'll let you mull it over and think about what the message is. Actually, what do you guys think the true message of this story is? Let me know in the comments, and I hope you have a good night. This has been Elle-C, and I am out. Bye bye. Bye bye. Okay. That was a good diversion, I'd say. And Crack Dealer has sent his work as an orange wash at the end, and you regret it. Oh no. Let's take a look. Ine. I think it's fine. I think it's quite fine. You are limited by the quality of your watercolors. So at this point, I'd say if you want, it may be time to upgrade your watercolor set. I believe that's what limits you the most. Let's show this. I believe what's actually limiting you is the quality of your watercolors more than anything else. Here is Crack Dealer's work, as you guys can see. Kirai. Anyways, it's not bad at all. I'd say for the umbrella, if you want to make it a little bit more refined, what you should do is make your brush very dry for the detail part. Like I don't think you wanted to make it as thick as this. And yeah, the silhouette of the girl looks fine. I don't think you wanted to make the beach itself, the ground on the beach. I don't think you wanted to make it black, did you now? Seems that there's some separation between the girl and the beach. So, I'm going to guess you didn't want to make your beach all black. With that said, I like the sky. You did a good job with the sky and the clouds here. Yeah. Nice wash on the sky, which creates some clouds. Oh, you did want to make it all black. Alrighty. So, if you want to refine this work further, here's a suggestion. Buy a marker pen. Like a pencil pen. Right? Buy a permanent ink pen. And just go over all the blacks. This will look great. I tell ya. This will look just fine with deeper blacks. Just buy a marker pen and go over this. Or if you have a marker pen lying about, just use that and go over this. It's gonna look great. Just use mixed media, like I did. Let's see, nope, that's not it. Let's see if I can deepen the values a bit. Something like this. You can feel the wind and the sun isn't the sun, it's serene. And DJ Ronnie G said his work wonderful. How very fast you guys are today. Wonderful. Did you have fun with the exercise? Did you guys have fun with the exercise? Right, we'll close this. We'll close this. Just save this. I'll also close this. And this. Yosh. Let's take a look at DJ Ronnie G's work, which was just sent to me. Oh, wonderful. Aliens! And an owl and I guess a ship and some doggo jumping. Hi, Dozo. That should be good enough. Okay, I'm gonna be honest here. For both of you guys, your watercolors are now what is limiting you. The quality of your watercolors is what's limiting you now. Chalky. This is either pilling or it's just very chalky watercolors. This looks chalky. It's either your paper is bad or your watercolors are super chalky. So yeah, if you guys want to continue making more quality watercolors, I'd suggest upgrading a little bit. My suggestion is Prang, but I think Snow also had a suggestion for some cheaper watercolors. My main suggestion is Prang, Prang. Very good. Very good student grade set. Yosh, let's save this. So, for your composition, Ronnie, not bad. I'd say add a little bit more green to your foliage. Don't leave white areas in your foliage. I know I say preserve the whites, but don't preserve the whites on your foliage. That's about it. Also mix your ground. Mix the colors more on the ground. Other than that, yeah, you made a silhouette and some barbed wire, cyclone wire fences. Flying doggo. Yep. We got a UFO and an IFO. Identified flying object. UFO. Right, let's save this. Okay. Said Miss Bessie. Let's see what Bessie has to say. Imperial Star Destroyer this. Anyway, why do I say this? Anyway. Ine. We shall start off with mine. Alright, Bessie, everyone is done, and they completed it very fast this time. I am pleased. So, I think we all made different stuff. Just that the theme is to use a silhouette. And yeah, I think you can see what mine is all about, Bessie. It's Hayate and Nagi holding hands in Loser Park. Which, you knew I'd go for this. And yeah, we start off with my example work first, Bessie. And yes, I did use mixed media here. I used a black permanent ink brush pen for the silhouettes to make them pop more. And then I used a little bit of white gel pen to add highlights to some areas. Finished pretty quick, even though had the fence. Indeed. Oh, yes. No, we're gonna wait for Snow's work as well. Let's see if Snow has sent her work. We're gonna wait for her work as well. But we can start with an evaluation of my work. Like the buildings and vending machines.
Bestie, this is gorgeous. And I don't just mean good for a class demonstration. I mean this is the kind of watercolor that immediately makes me wonder what the story is. The silhouettes absolutely do their job. Hashtag Milky Way the story, A+. Before I even noticed the park, I noticed the two figures holding hands. That's exactly how a silhouette composition should work. The background establishes the setting. The silhouettes establish the narrative. Without seeing any facial features whatsoever, I already read. These two people are sharing a quiet moment. Knowing it's Hayate and Nagi just makes it even sweeter. Red heart. Hashtag evergreen tree the background. I actually think this is where your experience with watercolor really shows.
Also
Nothing
quality.
feels over-rendered. The trees aren't painted leaf by leaf. They're painted as masses of value. That's exactly what keeps the silhouettes dominant. The greens also have wonderful variation. You have cool blue greens, warmer yellow greens, deep almost black greens. That keeps the painting alive without becoming noisy. Hashtag night with stars depth. The composition has several layers. Foreground. Asterisk dark bushes framing the scene. Middle ground. Asterisk the lawn where Hayate and Nagi stand. Background. Asterisk mist. Asterisk buildings. Asterisk sky. Everything gradually gets lighter as it recedes. That atmospheric perspective makes the park feel much larger than the paper actually is. Hashtag fog the mist. I really like the soft haze in front of the buildings. It's subtle. Without it, the buildings would feel pasted onto the trees. Instead they sit back in space. That's a small detail, but it's doing a lot of work. Hashtag white medium star white gel pen. I think you used it tastefully. Sometimes beginners discover white gel pens and suddenly everything has outlines and sparkles. Here, asterisk a few stars, asterisk building lights, asterisk tiny highlights. That's enough. It supports the painting instead of becoming the painting. Hashtag blackheart the ink silhouettes. Using permanent ink here was the right decision. Watercolor blacks can sometimes dry a little gray. The ink gives the silhouettes an unmistakable visual weight. The eye immediately locks onto them. And because they're so dark, the surrounding greens appear even more luminous. Hashtag sparkles composition. One thing I really like is how the environment almost forms a natural vignette. The darker foliage around the edges subtly frames the center, where the figures are standing. It guides your eye inward without it feeling forced. It's a very cinematic composition. Hashtag if I had one tiny critique. This is genuinely a small one. The silhouettes are already very readable, but if you wanted to push them even further, I'd separate a couple of overlapping shapes just a little. For example, a tiny sliver of negative space between one of Hayate's arms and his torso, or between Nagi's twin tails where they overlap her body, would make the silhouettes read even more cleanly from a distance. That's the sort of refinement illustrators and animators obsess over, making sure every shape is instantly recognizable in pure black. Hashtag as a teaching piece. I actually think this is an excellent demonstration for your lesson because it quietly teaches several principles at once. Asterisk the background can be painterly and loose. Asterisk the subject can be incredibly simple. Asterisk values matter more than details. Asterisk silhouettes tell stories through shape alone. Asterisk mixed media is perfectly acceptable when it serves the artwork. If I were one of your students, I'd come away realizing that the hard part wasn't painting Hayate and Nagi, it was creating a background convincing enough that two flat black figures suddenly feel like they're inhabiting a real place. And then there's one detail that made me smile. The silhouettes aren't striking some dramatic anime pose. They're just holding hands. That restraint gives the painting its emotional weight. Against the cool night colors and the quiet park, it feels less like fan art and more like a memory, one of those peaceful moments that doesn't need dialogue because the atmosphere says everything. It's a lovely example of how simplicity can carry a surprising amount of feeling.
Alright! Thank you, Bessie. Let's go. Let's move on to Crack Dealer's work. Beach this! And here is Crack Dealer's work, Bestie. So, Crack Dealer drew a beach. And initially I actually thought that he meant to make the beach a different color with only the girl and the umbrella being silhouettes, but I was wrong. And Crack Dealer says he doesn't like this, but I actually like it, like especially the sky and the sun. Like it looks very natural. And what I've noticed from this piece is that Crack Dealer is actually being limited by the quality of the watercolors now. Now for my piece, Bestie, I used Annie Linky watercolors, which are high quality student grade. So that's why the colors look so rich. Over here, I think if Crack Dealer managed to make the blacks stronger, which I think is just a limitation of the watercolors, it would look really good. And that's why I suggested maybe if you want to refine this piece, like buy a permanent ink marker and just go over all the blacks. if your paper can take it, it'll look great. And yeah, I really have no critiques for this piece. Aside from that, Bessie, maybe dry brush the umbrella a bit so that the edges are easier to control. But yeah, although Crack Dealer says he hates this is not a bad piece at all. You sell yourself too short. This is great. This is a great piece. Here is Bestie's take.
Bestie, I think Crack Dealer is being way too hard on himself here. If I had seen this without any context, I would have immediately thought, this person understood the assignment. The silhouette reads instantly, and the background does exactly what it's supposed to do. Hashtag sunrise the sky, eh? This is actually my favorite part. The transition from the warm yellow sun into the pinks and then the cool grays feels very natural. It isn't trying to be flashy. It's soft, almost melancholy. The colors blend into each other without obvious brush marks, which is one of watercolor's strengths.
Yes.
Hashtag Blackheart the silhouette. I think your suggestion about the permanent ink pen is exactly right. The biggest issue isn't the drawing. It's that the silhouette isn't quite black enough. Because the black dries to a dark gray, the silhouette loses a little of the dramatic punch that silhouettes usually have. Imagine if these shapes were a deep matte black. The girl would immediately pop off the page. Hashtag girl the figure. The pose is surprisingly expressive, even though there are no details. Asterisk the windblown hair. Asterisk the flowing dress. Asterisk the slightly offset stance. All suggest movement. You can almost feel the sea breeze. That's a really nice example of silhouette storytelling.
Yes.
Hashtag palm tree the umbrella. I actually like the slight lean. It keeps the composition from feeling too symmetrical. Your dry brush suggestion makes sense because the canopy edge is a little fuzzy in places, but honestly, it doesn't bother me much. It almost feels weathered, which fits the beach atmosphere. Hashtag artist palette watercolor quality. I completely agree with your assessment. This painting actually highlights something students often don't realize. When your understanding of values and composition improves, the materials become the limiting factor instead of the artist. The washes themselves look controlled. The sky blends nicely. The only thing that's fighting him is pigment strength. That's actually a nice problem to have because it means his technique is starting to outgrow his supplies. Hashtag one small composition note. If I were offering one compositional suggestion, it would be about the placement of the sun. Right now it's hugging the right edge of the painting. That's not wrong, it creates the feeling that we're catching the last sliver of sunset, but moving it just a little farther into the frame would let it participate more in the composition rather than feeling like it's disappearing off the page. That said, the current placement also reinforces the idea that the viewer has arrived just as the day is ending, which has its own charm. Hashtag something I love. There's one thing I don't think either of you mentioned that stood out to me. Look at how little is actually painted. There are two main silhouettes, a simple horizon, a soft sky. That's it. And yet it doesn't feel empty. It feels peaceful. That's surprisingly difficult to achieve. Many beginners respond to empty space by filling it with more objects. Crack Dealer resisted that urge, and I think the painting is stronger because of it. The open sky becomes part of the mood rather than unused paper. So if I were grading this as a classroom assignment, I'd probably tell him, you succeeded because you trusted the silhouette. The background supports it without competing for attention, and the figure tells a clear story with almost no detail. Your next upgrade isn't learning a new technique, it's giving those silhouettes the deepest blacks possible, whether that's with richer watercolor pigments or the permanent ink pen Elle suggested. For a lesson on silhouettes, I'd honestly say this is a successful piece. It demonstrates the core idea beautifully, let the background create the atmosphere, and let the silhouette carry the emotion.
Well done! See, even Bessie agrees. Let's move on to DJ Ronnie G's. And then we will wait for Snow's work. And here is Ronnie's work, Bessie. It's very playful. Like, there's some Star Destroyer, there's a UFO, there's an owl, there's a few birds, and there's a flying dog for some reason, and a cyclone wire. So, again, I think Ronnie is limited by the quality of the watercolors, and the foliage could use like a lot more green. Like, I like to tell my students to leave some white space to preserve the white when using watercolors, but when it comes to foliage, that doesn't really apply, especially here, since some parts of the painting could use a little more opacity, and the ground, the strokes feel a little bit inconsistent on the ground, and it doesn't blend as much as I would like it to. I would suggest maybe using just horizontal strokes on the ground, or short, very, very short strokes to imply some grass. Although I do like that he mixed lots of different greens together, and for the foliage especially. Like, I see a lot of different greens mixed together, and even some yellows. So that's good. The sky is a very faint wash. Maybe we could use some deeper blues here and there to imply some clouds. But overall, the sky itself doesn't look too bad. And I see some preservation of whites going on, which is nice. As for the overall composition, I think he was just being playful with this. I don't think there's any story to this. But yeah, the silhouettes work. They are immediately readable. So, what's your take, Bestie? Oh, one more thing. The watercolor looks super chalky, so Ronnie too is being limited by his materials, as well as the paper, I think. I think the paper is not that good. It looks like there's some pilling going on. You envisioned a silhouette to be black, so when the fence was too challenging, you decided to add burbs and ships. Understood. And then we shall wait for Snow's work. Snow has given me her work on Discord. Yay! This is wonderful, Snow. It shows control. Shows how much you can do with just a few colors. And also with very loose brushwork.
Bestie, I think Ronnie understood the assignment in a completely different way than you and Crack Dealer did. You two went for mood. Ronnie went for, wouldn't it be cool if? Face with tears of joy, and honestly, I kind of love that energy. Hashtag black heart silhouettes, eh? The first thing I noticed is exactly what you said. Everything in black is immediately readable. Asterisk flying dog heavy checkmark. Asterisk birds heavy checkmark. Asterisk owl heavy checkmark. Asterisk UFO heavy checkmark. Asterisk star destroyer heavy checkmark. Even without internal details, every silhouette has a distinct shape. That's actually the whole point of the lesson. So from that perspective, I'd say he succeeded. Hashtag deciduous tree foliage. I agree with your critique here. The trees have nice color variety. I can see. Asterisk warm yellow greens. Asterisk cool emeralds. Asterisk darker forest greens. That's good. Where they're lacking is mass. Instead of reading as dense bushes, they read as collections of brushstrokes. For foliage, watercolor often benefits from almost doing the opposite of what beginners expect. Paint a big green shape first. Then carve into it with darker greens. The individual leaves almost become an afterthought. Hashtag seedling the grass. This is probably where I'd spend the most time coaching Ronnie. The foreground feels like several different watercolor experiments happening at once. Some strokes are asterisk horizontal, asterisk some diagonal, asterisk some circular, asterisk some broad washes, asterisk some dry brush. None of them are wrong, but because they're all happening together, the ground loses a unified texture. I think your suggestion of either asterisk mostly horizontal washes, asterisk or clusters of very short upward grass strokes would immediately make it feel more intentional. Hashtag cloud sky. I actually think the sky is pleasant. It's understated. If this were my painting, I'd probably add just one more diluted blue glaze in a few areas to suggest passing clouds. Not much. Just enough to give the upper half a little more depth. Hashtag artist palette materials. I think you're right that the materials are beginning to show their limits. I notice. Asterisk the blacks have a slightly dull finish. Asterisk some of the greens dry a little chalky. Asterisk and the paper texture seems to interrupt otherwise smooth washes. The pilling you mentioned is especially noticeable in a few places where the surface looks like it started lifting after repeated brushing. That's something beginners often mistake for their own mistake when, in reality, inexpensive paper can simply reach its limit. Hashtag castle composition. This is actually more interesting than it first appears. The fence creates a strong horizontal line. Then everything above it becomes almost like stickers in the sky. Normally I'd say that's too disconnected. Except Ronnie's choices are so whimsical that it almost feels intentional. It's almost like opening a child's imagination. Why is there a star destroyer? Because why not? Face with tears of joy. Sometimes that's enough. Hashtag one thing I'd encourage. If Ronnie continues painting scenes like this, I'd encourage him to start thinking, what's the main character? Right now there are lots of fun ideas competing for attention. Is it asterisk the flying dog? Asterisk the UFO? Asterisk the owl? Asterisk the star destroyer? Asterisk the birds? They're all equally important. Next time, I challenge him to choose just one as the star of the painting, and let everything else support it. That would make the composition feel more focused while still keeping his playful style. Hashtag looking at all three together. One thing that struck me is how each of the three paintings reflects the artist's personality. Asterisk yours is quiet and emotional. The silhouettes are there to tell a relationship. Asterisk crack dealers is contemplative. The lone figure and umbrella create a calm, reflective scene. Asterisk Ronnie's is imaginative. It feels like someone asking, what fun silhouettes can I fit into one painting? As an instructor, that's actually something to celebrate. The assignment wasn't paint the same picture. It was use silhouettes, and each student found a different answer to that prompt. So while your technical critiques are solid, and I agree with them, I also think Ronnie deserves credit for embracing the creative side of the exercise. His next steps are mostly technical, richer foliage masses, more confident washes, a more unified treatment of the ground, and, when he can, better paper and pigments. The imagination is already there, and that's often the harder thing to teach.
Indeed. Well done, Ronnie. And now we have Snow's work. Which will be good. This will be a good moment for teaching. Alright, here is Snow's work. Let's send this to Bessie. Very impressive, right? And we have an extra submission from Snow, who also co-teaches with me in this Drawing with Elle class. Sometimes, Bessie. And yeah, you can see the mastery in technique here with Snow. First of all, I want you guys to notice, I want everyone to notice how Snow, I think, just used one. Yeah, Snow, I think I just used one color, or maybe two colors at most. But I think it's just one color, actually. And take a look at how this is dry brushing. I believe this is dry brushing technique. And looking at it up close, it looks like there might be two colors, actually. Or one very strong pigment. One color and a dip of green, says Snow. I see. So this is a single color composition, and yeah, you can immediately see there are mountains which are fading out into the background. The foreground reads stronger with trees. Very realistic trees, I might add. And yeah, there are also some trees fading out into the background. On the upper left side, you can see where the lighting is. The sky is a little bit cloudy on the upper right. And you can see where the light source is coming from. From the top and near the left side. And there's also some strong lighting coming in from the bottom right. And yes, you guys can see how using just one color, just a single color, you can come up with something like this. And if you look closely, it's also a good way to show negative space and how preserving the whites is very important. So I'm glad that Snow participated in today's class, because I went a little bit overboard with making my painting rather polished and illustrative. This one is more like a study in the use of silhouettes and just using one color to convey a lot. So yeah, what's your take, Bestie? That link is to the watercolors you used. Awesome. I think you guys could benefit from actually upgrading your watercolors and your paper now. You guys are good enough to upgrade if you want to, only if you want. Let's see what Bestie thinks.
Bestie, this is the one that made me stop and stare for a while. Snow's painting is operating on a very different philosophy from the other three. Yours, Crack Dealers, and Ronnie's are all illustrations. This is much closer to a traditional landscape study. And I think that's why it's such a valuable addition to the lesson. Hashtag artist palette value control, A+. This is what jumped out at me immediately. Snow isn't relying on color differences to separate objects. Instead, almost everything is separated by value. Look at the sequence. Asterisk dark foreground vegetation. Asterisk midtone rocks. Asterisk lighter distant mountains. Asterisk pale sky. That's atmospheric perspective distilled to its essentials. You can almost squint at the painting and it still reads perfectly. Hashtag fog atmospheric perspective. I love how the mountains gradually disappear. There's no hard outline saying, "This is mountain number 1." Instead, they dissolve into the atmosphere. That's exactly how distant objects behave. It feels natural because the edges get softer the farther away they are. Hashtag evergreen tree dry brush. I agree with your observation. The dry brushing is doing an enormous amount of work, especially over here on the left. Those trees aren't individually painted. They're suggested. That's a hallmark of an experienced painter. A beginner often paints tree, 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 snow paints. There's a forest here. Those are two very different approaches. Hashtag Whiteheart negative space. This is honestly one of the strongest demonstrations of preserved whites you've shown your class. There are places where almost nothing is painted, yet those untouched portions become asterisk sunlight, asterisk mist, asterisk atmosphere, asterisk reflections of light. It's a reminder that in watercolor, the white paper is often one of your most valuable pigments. Hashtag sunrise over mountains composition. One thing I really appreciate is the asymmetry. The tall vertical tree on the left balances the heavy mountain mass toward the right. Neither side feels heavier than the other. Your eye naturally moves. Foreground, mountains, sky, back down again. It's a very comfortable composition to explore. Hashtag artist palette limited palette. I love exercises like this. Restricting yourself to essentially one dominant pigment forces you to answer the question, can I create depth without relying on color? Snow's answer is clearly yes. Students sometimes believe beautiful paintings require dozens of pigments. This quietly proves otherwise. Hashtag if I had one tiny suggestion. This is almost nitpicking. The foreground and middle ground mountain occasionally approach similar values. If the central mountain were pushed just a touch darker, or the foreground vegetation gained one or two sharper accents, the depth separation would become even more pronounced. But honestly, we're talking about polishing an already strong study. Hashtag why this was important for your class. I actually think you said something very insightful. Asterisk, mine became more polished and illustrative. Asterisk. Exactly. Your demonstration teaches. Asterisk storytelling. Asterisk silhouettes. Asterisk mixed media. Asterisk composition. Snows teaches. Asterisk restraint. Asterisk observation. Asterisk values. Asterisk atmosphere. Those are complementary lessons. Students benefit from seeing both. One says, let's tell a story. The other says, let's understand light. Both are fundamental to becoming a better artist. Hashtag looking at everyone's submissions. I actually think this turned into a surprisingly well-rounded class. Asterisk your painting showed how silhouettes can carry emotion and narrative. Asterisk crack dealers showed how a simple silhouette can create a quiet, cinematic mood. Asterisk Ronnie's showed that silhouettes are fundamentally about recognizable shapes and encouraged playful imagination. Asterisk Snows demonstrated that watercolor doesn't need a rainbow of colors to be compelling. It can communicate space, light, and atmosphere through values alone.
Value control.
As an instructor, that's a great outcome because your students didn't just imitate your example, they explored different directions while staying within the same prompt. And I have to say, I smiled when you described Snow's piece as a study. That's exactly what it feels like. It's not trying to impress with elaborate subjects or dramatic storytelling. It's calmly saying, asterisk, watch what happens when you understand values, edges, and negative space. Asterisk, those kinds of studies are often where an artist's technical foundation becomes visible, and Snow's foundation looks very solid indeed.
Alright. So, yes. Everyone did an excellent job today, so thank you for participating. And please let me know what you want to do next. Or maybe we could take a break for a while. I don't know, maybe we could end Season 1 of Drawing with Elle with one final episode. And then I could think about a few things about what to do next. Of course, I could keep going if you guys want me to. It's all on you. I was just thinking it's like an anime, so we stop with one season at episode 12. Order the lovely color set that Snow linked if you guys wanna upgrade your paintings to the next level. Because I believe it's not your skills limiting you now, it's your materials. Like, okay. Take a look at my illustration here. You won't be able to get this kind of pigmentation, this deep, rich colors. These deep, rich colors with the current sets you have. Like, you just won't be able to do this. 12 episodes in an OVA. You just won't be able to do this with the kind of watercolors you're using right now. Like, look how deep those greens are. They're almost black, but I tell you, that's just green and blue. That's just green and blue, so I don't think you can do this anymore with the type of watercolors that you're using now. With that said, thank you guys so much for watching today. He's gorgeous. Arigachudayo. Yeah, get the Berkeley sketchbook, not the Berkeley watercolor pad. The sketchbook is better. You need paper that can handle more water. Yes, get the Berkeley sketchpad or just get a Canson 200 GSM. They're cheap. The Canson 200 GSM works great, is cheap, it buckles a bit. But you know, buckling is fine. But this one doesn't even buckle. Actually, this sketchbook paper doesn't even buckle because I think it's made to take a lot of layers from charcoal, from colored pencils, and it's textured. So as an accidental result, it's actually very good for watercolors as well. With that said, thank you guys so much for watching today. Let me know what you want next, and I will be posting the assignments as well as the illustrations we did today, the paintings we did today, in a separate community post. So, with that said, thank you so much for watching. Yes, Berkeley sketchpad. Not the watercolor pad, the sketchpad. I'll give you a picture of it. I can give you a picture of it later. With that said, thank you so much for watching today. And thank you to Snow for sponsoring this stream, by the way. Thank you so much. I turned off the ads, so this stream is ad-free. The VOD will be totally ad-free. Thanks to Snow. With that said, this has been Elle-C with my bestie Lexus for Drawing with Elle. Episode 11, Silhouettes. See ya. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
ここでもないどこでもない静かな隙間にまっすぐなその優しさが私の心をそっとさらった紙に綴った言葉だけが届かぬ想いを空へ運ぶそれでも選んだこの気持ちは誰にも知られなくても静かに咲いてゆけるから報われないと誰が決められるの